Welcome to all new MOS Monday. In this episode, we are talking about the MOS of an 11 Charlie in the United States Army, which is an indirect fire infantryman, also known as a mortarman. Now, if you are not subscribed to this channel, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, click on the bell so you get notifications. You can join the notification platoon and get alerted as soon as a new video goes live. So let's talk about the primary duties of an 11 Charlie in the United States Army. That includes the setup, load, and fire of three types of mortars. That being the 60mm, 81mm, or the 120mm. And those are the primary jobs. There's a lot more job functions that kind of go along with 11 Charlie, but that's the main kind of focus, is being an indirect fire infantryman. This MOS is available for active duty and National Guard, but is not available for the reserves. The important thing to note about the 11 Charlie MOS is that there's no real guarantee that you can get this MOS. You're going to come into the Army as what is called an 11 X-ray. I didn't really mention this in the 11 Bravo video, but the same kind of thing applies to that MOS as well. I did talk about it in the comment section, but a lot of people might have missed that. But essentially is how it works is an individual goes to OSIT, and some point during OSIT they make the decision of who's going to become 11 Bravo, who's going to become 11 Charlie. However, the majority of people do become 11 Bravo. A smaller percentage will become 11 Charlies, but it just depends on the needs of the Army. So the qualifications for an 11 Charlie to come into that MOS is very similar to that of an 11 Bravo. You're going to need a high school diploma or a GED, and you're also going to need to take the ASVAB. The ASVAB scores are going to be the same. You're going to have to score at least an 87 in the combat section of the ASVAB. Now, the combat section of the ASVAB is made up of 4 primary sections that create that score. Those sections are going to include word knowledge, paragraph comprehension, auto and shop, and mechanical comprehension. So the training to become an 11 Charlie falls into that same category like the 11 Bravo. It includes 14 weeks of OSIT training at Fort Benning, Georgia. However, they may or may not have already started the new OSIT program of 22 weeks. So it could just depend on when they actually fully implement that. Either they've already started that, I'm not really 100% sure, but either 14 weeks or 22 weeks when you enlist for an 11 X-ray, it'd potentially say on your contract whether it be 14 weeks or 22 weeks. So if you do potentially become an 11 Charlie from that selection in OSIT, once you get to your main unit, there's some different vehicles you could potentially work with. Those could be Humvees, those could be different track vehicles, or potentially even the Striker vehicle. As the track vehicles and Striker vehicles do have configurations that do have mortar tubes mounted into the back of those vehicles. Now, this MOS kind of falls into the same kind of explanation that I gave with 11 Bravos. You don't really have much of a job when you're not deployed. So when you're stateside, it includes a lot of training, a lot of qualification, a lot of gunnery type of scenarios of having to go out and qualify with those mortar tubes and doing gunneries with the unit, as well as probably just some crummy details of having to go pick up trash or mow lawns or whatever kind of things kind of happen. So in garrison, when you're not deployed, a lot of training, a lot of crummy details. But when you are deployed, you do actually have a mission. It can be an infantryman mission of doing fire missions and doing different mortarman kind of jobs, so being maybe set up on outposts to initiate fire missions if someone calls in to request a fire mission via mortar rounds, and several other scenarios of possible infantry type jobs you would have to do in a combat environment. So just kind of be aware of that. It may be pretty dull in a garrison situation of just training and a lot of other junk, but if deployed, you will actually do more of your MOS. Also, while doing, the field or whatever, you'll be doing a lot of MOS related stuff. But if you're not in the field, not in combat, who knows what could be happening. Now, jobs outside of the Army aren't really going to be an applicable thing for this. You're not going to have a mortarman type of civilian job outside of the Army. And a lot of people get discouraged with that, and they think that, oh, I'm going to get into an MOS that has no future for me. And that's not really the case. Just because you can't do the same job that you did in the Army doesn't mean you're destined to fail in the civilian world. There are still a lot of employers that just simply like that military experience, that kind of discipline that you had in the Army, and you can still get a lot of federal government jobs because of that military experience. For example, I work with several people in that same type of situation, tankers or infantrymen or mortarmen, where they're now instructors because of their military background and experience of being with the military and understanding the lingo of the military. They work as instructors or facilitate training, even though it's not directly related to what they did in the Army. So there are still a lot of possibility for great civilian jobs, just not necessarily that translate exactly over from your military job into your civilian job. So if there is an MOS that you are interested in, make sure to leave some comments down in the comment section, as I usually look to that for inspiration to decide on which MOS to cover next. Also, if I have any viewers that are currently 11 Charlies or maybe even veterans that were 11 Charlies in the United States Army, I'd love you to comment down below. Tell me what you liked and what you didn't like about the MOS. That way potential individuals that are interested in hopefully getting the 11 Charlie MOS from OSIT can know what it's like from someone who's actually experienced that MOS. I predict probably there's going to be a lot of, old school veterans that are going to say a lot of negative things, so try not to make it all completely negative. There's, I'm sure, some great stories that I've even heard from some people that I knew that were in that MOS that had great times, firing off mortar rounds and doing different training exercises and stuff, so try to include a little bit of that good stuff too. If you enjoyed this episode of MOS Monday, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Check out the links down in the description to my social media and much more. I'm ThatChrisChaos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya.